Well, welcome to our reflection and for this newsletter. It's really good to be doing this because it really encouraged me, the things I'm going to talk about. But the passage I was looking at was James 5:13 to 14, and it says, "Is any among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone happy? Let them sing songs of praise." Well, I was actually travelling back from Prague via Germany with Stefan, who was the Dutch supporter, and is now justifiably their associate, so it's just been made up, and I'm really pleased about that because he was a real good travelling companion for me. We were heading for Holland with Park Company, and I was going to head for Utrecht and then the Hook of Holland to catch the morning ferry. Well, all options for getting to England for me before 4 a.m. were exhausted. And I'd come to terms really with the fact that when I got back I'd need to self-isolate for 2 weeks. Not a pleasant thought, but it was the only option. Well, my wife had tried ringing me to let me know one ferry in Calais could get me home before the cut-off point. But it had meant diverting quickly through the night to board at 1 a.m. in Calais. But I never got the call. Me intercom wasn't picking up, so I completely missed that call. However, I'd previously thought it was probably worth praying that God would get me back on time. This was with little faith. I didn't really believe that he would, but I thought, well, it's worth praying. So close to Utrecht, we briefly pulled into a service station, although we didn't really need to at that point, at which my wife felt prompted to phone me about the ferry. If she hadn't have phoned then, it would have been too late to ride across to France in time. And God's timing is perfect. And I think it taught me that we need to have more faith sometimes. I needed to have more faith that when I asked God to do that, it was possible that God would. So the prompting of my wife was just the perfect timing. However, a further obstacle came as I was ready to depart the ferry in the early hours of the morning back in England. And I've mentioned before I found my clutch cable had snapped. So after bumping it down the ferry ramp, I was only able really to stop where there was a long slope. If it had stopped anywhere else, then I wouldn't have got the bike started again. So that was the only place I could stop. In the rush to reach the ferry, I hadn't had a chance to fill up in Calais, where my tank was about empty. But I'd thought, well, I'll fill up when I got on the other side. So I began my ride home and realised the tank was past reserve. It was 30 miles to the petrol station and the tank was showing empty. Again, I thought, well, it might be worth praying that God would get me to the service station. But I didn't hold out much hope. So anyway, I glanced back at the fuel dial and it had moved back halfway up on the reserve. And furthermore, it stayed there for 30 miles until I reached the service station, at which point it dropped back to empty. Now I know that that bike won't do 30 miles. It won't even do 30 miles when it's on reserve, on that point of reserve. A couple of miles would do it. So it was a real answer to prayer for me. So it's affirmed for me just how much God watches over us as we minister on these rides, and the importance of prayer even when things seem hopeless, as they did for me. Well, the roads can still be perilous and we're never immune to danger, but I'd rather ride with Jesus than without him. So that's my experience, what I thought I'd share in this newsletter. Cheers.